Hi, I'm Jess from OpenRoads, and I'm here with Tim from BikeYou in Darwin. And today Tim's going to be showing us how to set our bike up for off-road riding and some general tips.
We're going to just talk a little bit about setup on the Himalayan. One or two specific things to the Himalayan. It's a fantastic little bike, nice low seat, nice low foot pegs, gives you lots of control, but the handlebars are quite tall, which makes it really natural to stand. You've got these set nice and tall, which is quite good. It means it helps us to lift our elbows when we're off-road. So again, if you're shorter and you're sitting down, then we'd have them closer to us, but if we're standing and we're doing primarily adventure riding, then we'd roll those bars forward just like you have, and it helps us to lift our elbows just a little bit. Those brake and clutch levers as well, you've got them in a lovely position, which is reasonably horizontal, maybe just a little bit below horizontal, and that makes them easy to access when we're sitting down, but it also makes them easy to access when we're standing. If we set the gear lever up right, it really helps us with our confidence. We don't have to worry about changing gears and all that sort of stuff. You'll notice when you're standing, your foot is really flat. If we put our foot, there we go, put our foot back in the foot home position, what we want to do is set the lever up so that you can just pivot your foot around the lever and click up and click down. That one's set quite low. I reckon this gear lever is set for sitting down. So if you were to sit down again, see your toe drops, and it's much more natural to use the gear lever from a sitting position for this one. So if you're going to be standing for long periods of time, I would set it for standing up. Now we can't adjust the foot peg, but what we can adjust is the brake lever. We use our rear brake mainly for controlling the bike and steadying the bike rather than stopping. Often find that rear brake levers are set too high. This one's a little bit on the high side. If you'd like to stand up for us, what we want is so that we can just pivot our foot and just grab that brake lever with our toe and just modulate it really well. Could you move your foot out of the way, and I'll show the camera that little screw there just at the bottom of this pivot. That sets the brake lever where it will sit. But we also need to adjust this bolt, this nut here, and that will adjust where the rear brake begins to actuate. If we don't have that slack, then the rear brake system will overheat. What that does is it locks the rear brake, stops you moving. We also want that brake lever to be fairly horizontal, so that when we're standing, our foot's horizontal, it's really easy to access that brake lever. If it's too far down, then we won't get an effective rear brake, and if it's too far up, then we'll lock it up and have to lift our foot onto it.
What's your opinion on riding on the balls of your feet then?
I don't. I'd like to. I've tried to learn because it gives you a little bit more spring. The reason I don't is just for those controls. So like I was saying, you put the arch of your foot on the foot peg, and then I can move my boot and find that brake lever anytime I want. Whereas if I'm on the balls of my foot, when I want the rear brake lever, it's either not there or I have to take a dive for it. And so if you're taking a stab at it, it's that on and off sort of feel. Whereas if you've got your foot in the arch and you can just pivot your foot and squeeze that brake lever with your toe, you get a much finer modulation of the brake. That's the big word for today, modulation. Say that, kids. Modulation. Okay, well, we've got some of our setup sorted. Let's go and find some rocks and work on our technique riding over some rocks, and we might look at some cornering as well. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Good. All good?
Yep.
There we go. So what I'll get you to do now, what we'll get you to do, we'll get you to put your helmet on, and we're going to ride through this section of rocks, and we'll have a look at your body position, where your weight distribution is, and we'll see what advice we can find for you.
Sounds good.
Well, I think your position, your body position, your form is really good. Just remember to stay nice and central. We don't want to be too far back, but if we're nice and central, we can bend our knees and get that attack position, that low position that you're keen to get. Elbows up, nice and central. I think 1 or 2 fingers on the clutch is a real good thing as well. It gives you that security of having and the stability of being able to hang on to the bars, but at the same time as being able to operate the clutch when you want to, rather than going from one to the other, which is, again, it's a bit like the rear brake with stabbing at stuff. But a little bit faster is good as well, isn't it? A little bit faster feels so much better. The bike just flows really good. But on the whole, I think your riding position is really cool. It looks good.
That's good. Yeah, I just wonder, so why do we have our arms up?
Arms up helps us to move the bike from side to side. That's quite hard to do, and it looks silly. Whereas that looks cool. Looks like we're racing.
Yeah.
That looks really, really cool. The other thing is our wrist and the heel of our hand will take impacts through the forks.
I'm having some problems with my thumbs.
If you lift your elbows, you'll take the pressure off your thumbs, and you'll put the pressure onto the heel of your hand. And this aches a little bit when I drop my elbow, so it's my...
Okay, cool, got it. Okay, elbows up, 2 fingers on the clutch, and ride a bit faster.
Yeah, that's it. If in doubt, dash it out.
That's good.
That's pretty good. That's nice. First thing on the clutch, maybe having 2 fingers on the clutch is a really good thing. It gives you that security. If you don't want to do that, just put your hands on the bars. But then you feel like you can't pull the clutch in. So it's having that security of having been able to pull the clutch is really good. Those elbows up, they came up a little bit later, but initially we're down a little bit, and it is hard to remind yourself, and it feels awkward, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But if we can do that, the bike will understand you more, because you can push down, you can get that movement going on rather than this movement.
So if I'm going and then I find that I'm starting to slip out, do I lean out?
What I saw you do just then, you look down. Yeah. That's why you slipped out.
Yeah, okay.
If your front starts to push, if your head and eyes are up and your front starts to push, then rolling off the throttle might transfer a bit of weight to the front and get it to bite a little bit. Equally, just maybe putting your leg out, dangling your leg might transfer a little bit of weight to the front.
So that's what you do when you, because I always find that on corners I'm more comfortable to sit, because I feel like I could put my leg out, to get around. So you're saying that if you're standing, then you could just sort of dangle your foot.
It's one thing that you could do, yeah. It's not taught in the textbooks, but it'll come naturally when you... I think what you want to do, if the front starts to push, then we want to transfer weight to the front. Right. What we don't want to do is look down. We don't want to accelerate or push the front any harder. We want to get some more weight on the front so it grips.
And what do you mean by the front starting to slip? So I know what it feels like when the back slips. What does it feel like when the front slips?
It feels horrible.
Okay, yeah.
it feels understeer. You turn the handlebars and the bike keeps going, then you've lost control.
Gotcha.
If the back slips, it's cool. Yeah. Which is why I like your choice of tyres. There's Michelin on the back, which is a more adventure bike style, and the Dunlop on the front, which is quite a knobbly, quite an aggressive trail enduro tyre. It means the front's going to grip better off-road than the back, and that's cool. That's the way we want it. We want more grip at the front. Trouble is, on the road, then you're going to find the reverse, so you're going to have to back off and not be very keen on the road. The last tip I think I've got for you, or very, very important tip, and you can apply this to all sorts of things, but especially to water crossings, and that is to just stop and have a look. But most people who drown their bike go into a water crossing too quick, or without hesitating, without stopping and having a look. If we can stop and have a bit of a look, we can see that it's okay, that's great, we can go through there. Number one way to go through will be stood up, head and eyes up, looking where you want to go, not look where you don't want to go, and all the usual stuff. Maybe just slightly bit more attack than casual. The second thing that we might do is we might sit down and just walk with our feet. The next way we could do it, the next safest thing we could do is to get off the bike, engine running, and walk the bike that way. That way we've got a little bit more triangulation. We would always go upstream of the bike in that instance, so you're never below the bike. If the bike goes over for the current, you're not going with it. So that's a nice safe way to do it as well. You can turn the engine off and have a couple of mates push. You can always have a mate to hang on to the back of your rack or just be there for you. Is you get your little fold out saw and you cut a couple of little trees down, maybe this sort of diameter, pulling through the spokes, 2 people on the back wheel, 2 people on the front, and 1 person holding the bike, and you can get through water like this deep. And that's pretty cool too. But the most important thing to do is to stop and have a look, and don't rush into it. And that goes for sand, that goes for water crossings, and all sorts of things.